Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Crossing Realms Together. I am one of your hosts, the Reverend Rob Lee, Tarot with an Attitude, along with, you know what? A lot of times I think I'm pretty good looking. I know that's hard to believe, okay? But
Yes, you are.
my other host kind of has me by a little bit, okay? The lovely Miss Laura Van Tyne from the
Well,
Karmic Path. How are you?
thank you. I'm doing great today. Thank you.
Good,
Yeah.
good. We got an interesting topic tonight,
Yeah,
you
we
know?
do. We do.
This is going to be different, and so y'all know, so y'all can be ready. Laura and I have talked about, we haven't done a lot of talking beliefs on this together, so this could be interesting because we may not agree on everything, but we can agree to find that middle ground or whatnot. So you're going to see, find out, and we might agree on more than what we even realize.
And you know
So
what, sir? What I really love about this is that we get to agree to disagree. You know what I mean? And by the way, that's like worth its weight in gold in my book. There's so many
oh my God.
you
You
don't.
don't learn anything if you don't listen to somebody and hear a different opinion. We can't always have our opinion spewing out of somebody else's mouth,
We're
you
in
know?
this era where if you don't think like I think, if you don't believe what I believe, then you're wrong. You're probably going to burn in hell, right? Door is closed.
Yeah.
So, we do have different philosophies and different belief structures, but at the end of the day, it comes down to the same thing: kindness, compassion, love, understanding, and just trying to figure stuff out.
Yeah, absolutely. And it goes back to where my deepest roots in, if I go from religion into spirituality and combine the two, is that what we were taught, what Christ was trying to teach us by being here, is that it's about our intention. It is not about a law, a thing, this text, this scripture. It's not. It's what's our intention? Where are we intending to go? And I think that whether we have the same path or not, we're following parallel. And a lot of times our paths just
Oh,
cross and
yeah.
we can help each other out because we have the same intention. We want people to live a good life. We want people to live a free life. We want them to understand. And I feel like I'm starting to preach, but I'm getting my goosebumps. And the whole idea here is for free thinking, break free, and live your best spiritual life you can. So we're just trying to ask questions that come up. You may not even care, oh dear tribe. Okay. You may not even care about a soul path or whatnot, but you need to know what it is when the topic comes up, even if you just sit back and go, yes, no. Okay. That's one of those things. And that's what Laura and I like to do. So let
Absolutely.
me ask you this. I'm going to go ahead and get us started with a prayer, if that's
All
all right.
right. Absolutely.
Our most gracious and loving Heavenly Father, the divine mother, that divine feminine, all one and the same. In our image, we were created. One of those things I want us to remember, and I'm asking you and telling you both, thank you. Your spirit, your angels, your guides. All of this is part of spirit, universe, the earth, the galaxy, cosmos. It's all part of God, the creator, higher consciousness, however you see it. We want to say thank you. I want to say, please keep the messages coming from you, not from me. And also keep your angels and your guides close to us and tuned in. So mote it be. There we go.
Thank you.
All right. Hey, you see my Egypt shirt tonight?
I
Got a
do.
new shirt.
I like it. I
Got a
like
new shirt.
Oh,
Gillian kind of.
I got a shirt for you. I'm mailing you.
Oh, okay.
Yes. And I got the same one, so we can be matchy someday.
Oh, that'll be cool. That'll be cool. All right. So now the tribe. All right, we've given y'all something to talk about. When Laura and I show up in the same clothes, Laura's mailing the Rev clothes. Okay.
Oh, there you go.
So
I saw it, man. I couldn't resist. Okay.
no, that'll be great. That'll be great. The big question will be, can I even wear it? Can I put it on? Or am I going to look like a bubblegum wrapper?
No, it'll work. It'll be just fine.
All right. So Soul contracts and sacred callings. If you don't mind, let's start out and talk about real quick a soul contract, and then I'll talk about sacred callings, because they're not exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
And that's what people need to understand. So if you don't, go ahead, or is there someplace you wanted to start?
No, this is perfect. I might ramble for a little bit here to kind of lay some groundwork.
Okay.
We all have soul contracts. All right. So our souls are eternal. Christ talks about life everlasting, right? Not death everlasting. So when we leave these bodies, the energy that animates these bodies, our soul has to go somewhere. Okay. And I've talked about this before on the show, that we go from the third dimension right now, physicality, the fourth dimension, to the fifth dimension and higher. Or we stick around in the fourth dimension, which has been kind of hijacked by the dark side, the hells, the lower astral, whatever you want to talk about, whatever you want to call it. So our soul's contract, our life between lives, this is where we're at, life between lives, where we come up with these soul contracts with other beings. And I'm going to give you the ideal version. The ideal version is I leave my body, I cross over, I go home to the heavens, to higher realm, whatever you want to call it. And from there, my soul, and this is why I cross over a lot of people every day with clients and stuff. And so my soul is now in the higher realms. It's in the heavens. And here I am afforded a past life review, the life that I lived, to gain understanding about what happened and why, and those types of things. I'm afforded soul healing and soul restoration. I'm afforded something called counselors of divine wisdom, these light beings that teach us. We seem to think that when we die, we cross over, we sit on the cloud, and we play the harp forever. Now, we're actually very busy in these other realms. And while we're doing this, so the reincarnation cycle is on average 150 years, Earth years, on average. Now, there are reports of people coming back in 5 years or less, and that's a different story. When you cross over into the higher realms, it's 150 Earth years, because we need to heal. We need to get that soul restoration. Lo behold, I shall walk the valley shadow of death. I shall fear no evil. Da 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 da. That's get your booty on home, right? That's your mom and dad saying, get your ass home. Don't linger, because bad things happen when we linger. So we're in there. We decide to create our plan for the next incarnation. Okay. This is the soul contract. And in this plan, I want to learn about this, or I want to study this. And how many times have we heard about the 3-year-old who can play piano like Mozart, right? There's a reason for this. That's his soul contract, is to learn music. Music is God's math. And that is the most optimal form of a soul contract. Okay. What I find a lot of times, more often than not, when somebody dies, they do not cross over. The dark side can soul nap that soul. And now they've got access to the soul, and they can create contracts too. Or the other part of this, and I'm getting down in the weeds here, down in a rabbit hole. I'm going to give you an example. I have a client of mine who we did a past life regression on one of the Lyran planets. And she was grabbed in a war and forced to create a contract with the reptilians under duress. She has this contract with the reptilians under duress in this lifetime, many contracts. And they contracted her out to the Greys and to the other species. The Greys are kind of like a power broker among these things. So she's trying to break these contracts. This is a contract of coercion, a contract of omitted data, a contract of many things that are false. So now it's up to her to say, these are false, these are not mine. And this happens more often than not. I don't want to scare people, but Don't want to scare people, but this is a reality. So this is where free thinking, soul sovereignty comes into play. Just like the beginning of the show, we were talking about how it's okay to disagree. And that means we're free thinking, that nobody has us controlled, right? We're not a controlled operator
Right.
for the dark side. So those are important elements. And so that's kind of like my big, huge 40,000 foot version of soul contracts, but we'll get a little bit more specific. And if anybody has any questions, please ask.
Yeah, no, and that's good. I'm glad you mentioned that. And one of the things is I want people to understand soul contracts, okay? They don't appear, and now I'm going to give this the quotes, okay? So y'all know that means something, okay? They do not appear in many scripture, okay, that we have that we are aware of today. You're not going to go to the Bible, okay, in the way that it's written today or with the books that it was written from today and find very much about a soul contract. You will find information about a calling, about your journey, about having a purpose. All right. So that is one of those things. And that you will find in almost every scripture across cultures through anything about what you do with your life, where you're going with it, or anything. Even the Buddhist is trying to understand we're trying to get through a life of pain so we can reach a life without pain. Okay. We keep coming back living through pain in the Buddhist idea. And I'm giving y'all a very mind 80,000 foot thing, Buddhism or whatnot. In the Tao, it doesn't talk about good versus bad. It really puts it more on us about what we think of is creating evil. You know, one of the things in the Tao Te Ching, it talks about, what makes a man a thief. All right. If we see him rummaging through somebody's trash can to eat, we don't think anything of it. If we find him going in their garage and getting in their garage refrigerator to get something to eat, we have put a different value on what's in a trash can versus what's in a freezer. So in essence, and this gets into philosophy and everything, I'm not saying he's not guilty, okay? I'm telling you this is the philosophy of the Tao Te Ching. So when we start looking at things from a soul contract perspective or a sacred calling perspective, we have to keep that in mind, okay? That this is much broader than it may appear. Does that make sense? Did I make sense with that?
It does. And these religions, and especially with the religions where reincarnation is not a concept,
Correct.
Or is not understood, it's a limited scope. We're looking at this from a spiritual point of view, a universal point of view. Religions have their place, philosophies have their place, but you have to figure out what rings true for you and why. A
Right.
lot of times when people have these intense blockages of money, of relationships, of random fears or phobias, it stems through something like this. And when you can clear that, it's amazing.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And a lot of people don't realize how much different we think it's just us. And religion actually, it's so different. Every culture has the same problems we have with who's doing what right. There are portions of the of Buddhists, and if you go into India or whatnot, the East, that take the reincarnation portion of this so much to heart that every living creature they believe very well could be a reincarnated soul here to learn a new life, learn a new lesson, come up in hierarchy, whatever, to the point that they will walk with a little broom sweeping. So if there's an ant, okay, or a bug in their path, they don't cause it harm. And when you get down to, wait a minute, All right. I got somebody worried about hurting an ant. What we deal with over here, holy crap. Okay.
Right, right.
You know, think about it. It's
Yeah,
concept, it's construct, what we believe and what you believe. So that's the reason Laura and I are saying, I don't care what you believe, okay? But be strong in it. Know why you believe it. Be willing to adjust and adapt. Like we
got it.
said at the very
Yeah,
beginning.
you gotta ask the whys, right?
Yeah,
Why? Why do I think
always,
this way?
always.
Other than because a lot of times we've been programmed as children just to believe. So we got to ask the whys. And soul contracts are very intimate, they're very individual. I work with people all the time. Oh, Catherine, you can actually, if you go to thekarmicpath.com and under services, I do a lot of that work, finding out about soul contracts. And we work together as a team because I'm not going to say, oh, you should be doing this or that. There's a way that I can
Right.
that you can see and I can see what's going on to better benefit you. So absolutely.
And
Um,
I do the same thing if you want with the
okay.
sacred callings, finding your path, this type of thing. And again, it's not me going, oh, here's what you got. No, I'll use the cards. We have a conversation. We have to figure this out together.
Yeah.
And I think
Anybody
that's one of
that,
those.
and any of these, any psychics and people that are in this field that just tell you, they're robbing you of the experience of self-discovery.
Right.
And there's no problem in having a guide to that self-discovery, but we really need, because when you have a guide to the self-discovery versus somebody just telling you, it gives you ownership in your soul sovereignty, in your soul's future, in your soul's responsiveness and to situations and such. That's a really big deal.
Yeah.
So there's, you know, as many soul contracts as there are people, sometimes we finish a soul contract in, when we're 25 or 12 or whatever, and then we're ready for the next one. And, we think, oh, God, I'm so glad I figured that one out. Sometimes these soul contracts are about relationships. So let's say, are you dating and somebody who is similar to your father who may have been abusive?
Right.
Do you constantly have the same boss over and over and over? The controlling narcissist that won't let you speak? That's karma testing you. Absolutely. And so just know that we got to learn these tests. We got to learn what that next widget is. And then karma will give us these lessons. So, for example, my first boss could have been from this company and he's described as this way. And then my next one is similar. And it's like, oh, I always get the worst bosses. Ask yourself why you get the worst bosses. I always pick the wrong boyfriend. Ask yourself why you picked the wrong boyfriend or girlfriend. I don't want to, be sexist here. And
Right.
you got to learn how this is helping you.
And that's it. And one of the things we got to look here is,
Yeah.
we believe these soul contracts to be agreements that are made here. And this is really kind of cool. And I had something write this up for me so I could get it right. Because you know how a lot of times I get off in the weeds. Okay. Agreements made before birth between souls, outlining lessons, relationships, and challenges in this lifetime. And you got to remember, it's all for the purpose of growth. That's what we're
Yeah.
trying to do, is we're trying to grow and become more of a spiritual person, those type of things. And that's very, very, very important to understand that these are here. So if you're going through a lot, you might want to take some time, meditate, learn here, get with Laura and I, but actually spend some time meditating and in prayer or whatever you need to do to connect to your higher power and your higher conscious to find out, okay, I keep repeating this. What am I supposed to be learning from this?
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know? And one of the things, I've talked about this before when we talk about love, when we talk about different relationships and things like that. a lot of people don't understand, and I've dealt with this in helping people when they start going, why do I keep repeating this pattern? Nobody, when we're a kid, we're the perfect salesman, and the adults beat it out of us. We answer a question with a question. I don't know why, and I would look at them and go, well, you're the one repeating it. Why are you doing it? And a lot of times, if you will do that, and we've talked before about root cause analysis on a real world level, of starting going, why? Ask why minimally 5 times, but you have to answer the why each time and then drill that down. And a lot of times, what I found out, particularly in relationships, a soul is hurt. There's a lack of self-esteem. There's a need of codependence. And I'm telling you, I have said all along, I think codependency, not just on a substance, but on people or acceptance as a whole, is one of the leading things killing this country. Okay. Why do my relationships always break up? Okay. Maybe you're not waiting, okay, for spirit to bring the right person in. You're trying to fulfill your own physical or emotional need, not relying on spirit, your angels, your guides. Okay. Remember, we are here to love. We are here to have mercy and show mercy. But you can't do that with somebody else if you haven't done it for yourself.
Yeah, right. I know that's the hard part, right? And
Man.
learning to love ourselves can be actually a soul contract. That can be,
Absolutely.
and I want to kind of touch in on soul contracts and reincarnation for a moment, because they
Okay.
go in hand. We do reincarnate here over and over and over. And for the 3D, the third dimensional, we have the time, we have the space, we have the gravity to have the physicality of this world, right? These light beings they don't have time, they don't have gravity, and they don't have the space. This is why in the early days when I was trying to figure out my problems, I could have 300 ghosts in my house and they all fit. Okay.
Yep.
There's a reason for that. So when we reincarnate here, and we come into a family with a certain dysfunction, because there is no perfect family, right? Every family is here for the lessons and experiences that they have agreed upon. Sometimes there will be a person or personality inserted into a family to help break a negative family pattern. Okay. That's a
Yeah.
possibility.
Uncle Bob from Boston, or your cousin Bill from Boston in the Samuel Adams beer commercial. That one cousin family member that just, it's like you're about to roll a Yahtzee and in he walks through the door. The whole family goes, okay.
Yeah.
Nobody hates him, nobody dislikes him, but he challenges the way you think about everything.
Yeah. And in some lifetimes, my mother could have been my cousin. My brother could have been my mother. I mean, it can be many twists and turns of the same soul family group, karmic group that you've chosen to reincarnate from. The idea is to learn from one another in different roles. If we look at this as a play in the theater play, right? There are different roles that
Right.
we play in every lifetime. But I come across a lot of people who do not fit into their families.
Right.
I just don't fit into my family. And chances are, ask yourself why you don't fit and go through there and just kind of figure some things out. But also, did your soul have a contract to come into this family line to break negative family patterns? If it's incest, if it's abuse, did you come in here to teach this family how to think for yourself, right? So you come in and you break the patterns. The hardest thing we can do in a human body is break a negative family pattern.
Absolutely.
That accelerates our karmic return, our karmic debt so much. Because when we can break the negative family pattern, we've stopped us from being abused. We've stopped allowing us to be abused. We've also stopped the abuser from harming ourselves. You also have all the bystanders in the family, maybe their siblings or cousins or whatever, that is like, oh, look at that. It took a lot of courage for Joe to do blah, blah, blah. right?
Right.
And they also may not like it. They may throw you out of that family unit because you have disturbed their status quo. That's
Exactly.
on them, not you.
Particularly when you challenge their spiritual beliefs
Yeah.
or their religious beliefs. There's a
Well,
difference
political beliefs
between,
too.
yeah, there's a difference between spirituality and religion. Now, here's one thing I'm going to do a whole special on it. Already got it lined out, ready to go. Okay, so be looking for it. I get you hear this statement all the time. I hear it all the time. Well, I'm spiritual, but I'm not religious.
Right.
Guess what? You can be religious and spiritual. You can be spiritual and religious. And a lot of people don't understand that concept other than they use it to say, well, I'm spiritual. I believe a lot of what this religion says, but I don't believe everything about it. It's been lumped into a thing. And that's not exactly what it means. You know, so like Gillian asked the question here, and I appreciate the question. While we still have free will and can make our own choices, our soul contract gives us a starting point and a purpose.
Yes, because along the way of our life path, we have the free will to make those choices. Now, when I keep choosing poorly, now these are experiences, okay? I do not believe in the concept of sin because sin evokes guilt, shame, and blame. And absolutely, Donis. Um, Guilt, shame, and blame. When we can change the concept of sin with an experience and learn to own the experience, learn to atone for our misgivings, it sets us up on a much stronger platform. It actually raises our vibrational frequency. The dark side wants us to feel guilt, shame, and blame. So our free will is the ability to make choices. God gifted us free will. The angelic realms do not have free will as the humans do for a reason. They are here to support us in our decision making. Now, if I keep making the wrong decision, I'm going to get a little tap on the shoulder, right? A little nudge, right? And I make another wrong decision. I'm kind of like, now I was 1 degree off course. Now I'm 5 degrees off course. Now I'm like 10 degrees off course. Pretty soon you're going to get hit over the head by a cosmic 2x4. Are you paying attention?
And that's huge because and now I'm going to throw the whole world for a loop. Might even throw you for a loop a little bit. This is the reason I have a hard time with soul contracts. Okay.
Hmm?
I understand the concept. I don't know that I'm 100% in. Okay. Because of this. All right. A contract is a contract that I'm supposed to live up to and change. But now God has given me no memory of it. Spirit has given me no memory of it. And I'm here to try to figure that out. I find that a little
It's like the light
disheartening.
color, right? You can't see it, you can't hear it, right? Yeah.
Right. So, it would be like me going, okay, Laura, you owe me, you need to deposit, $1,000 into my bank account. Well, why? Well, we got married. You just didn't know it.
Yeah.
You know, you owe me $1,000. All right.
There
And
you go.
better yet, I
Yeah.
need your address.
So, you know,
You know, but,
exactly.
and I'm not cutting that short because I do believe there's another portion of this where it all ties together.
It does. And so these when the contracts come from the light side, they are guideposts. I think maybe that's actually the word that Gillian used. I could be wrong. They're guideposts for us to steer us into the direction we can to have an optimal life, to learn what we need to learn. And it's, do we pay attention or not? All right. So, yeah, I'm going to pause for a moment. Amelia, yeah, healing generational trauma in yourself echoes out forward and backwards. And
Absolutely.
it's just like what Donna said, stopping the family abuse, stopping that generational trauma. And a lot of these generational traumas are, in a sense, beyond our control, but we have the control to change our reactions to these situations. That's the free will. I'm working with this wonderful person who grew up with such horrific sexual abuse. the parents allowed the siblings to abuse her. Okay. And if it didn't happen in front of a witness who was willing to testify, then that rape never happened.
Right.
This is a religion. Okay. And
Well,
so,
and we need to understand that concept. In Florida,
mhm,
in early, I don't know if it's changed because I haven't been involved in the law in that long. Okay. But one of the things we learned when taking Florida law was you could not charge a spouse with rape back in the day
interesting.
because Florida believed at that point, ages ago, okay, that by getting married, you agreed to have this relationship. Thank God we've come alive and smartened up,
Right.
okay?
Put some
But
parameters
if
around.
you take that and understand what that actually says, okay, from years ago, I'm not saying it's accurate now, but it was years ago, okay? When we apply that to everyday things, okay, what have we agreed to? What have we not agreed to? You know, and that's some of the whole, you know,
Yeah.
I, I don't know. I might have just taken us down a very
Um,
dark detour,
well,
but
it's dark, but it's the reality. There's a lot of families who have generational abuse.
right,
And I mentioned, this young woman I'm working with, horrific generational abuse. However, she's made a very concerted effort to make changes for herself so she never repeats those patterns.
right.
Period. That's the best we can do. And it's probably one of the biggest forms of spiritual service we can do is to stop that generational abuse, that family abuse, because it stops that karmic clock from ticking in a way. So there's a lot we can do. We have the free will. This is where these soul contracts come in. We have the free will to do or not do. So, let's say I had a soul contract to become a teacher, but I decided I didn't want to. Okay, I want to do something else. Maybe I'm waiting tables or whatever else. Well, now your contract has changed a bit. You're supposed to go from A to B to C, but maybe you go from A to B.1, B.2, and then you get there the other way. Every experience we have takes us down our path.
Correct.
And giving yourself the grace and patience to know this, to understand this, is a really big deal.
It's huge. It's huge. And that's where sometimes this all can be overwhelming and you can be in a mental overload on trying to understand. And that's one of the things I want to help take away from everybody because I do need you to understand one of the first parts of this is to understand your path, your purpose, okay, your calling, all right, is generally tied some way to or with the perceived soul contract. Okay. So it's how do you get from point A, like Gillian said, point A to point B? Well, at some point, what we're wanting to do is to be able to stop. And I firmly believe that one of the reasons we are here as human beings, if you believe the concept that we are spiritual beings having a human experience, one of the things we are here to learn is how to keep emotions because emotions are not physical, they have physical reactions. Okay. But if I'm standing here, you can't see if I love, I hate, or whatnot unless I take that action.
Right.
We are having to learn one of the biggest things I think most of us are here to learn is stop making all your decisions from an emotional standpoint. Rein that part in and not just mentally think about it, but spiritually think about it.
Well, and I think another aspect to all of this are we all have soul purposes. What is the purpose of my being here? And
Right.
our soul purposes can vary far and wide. Sometimes the soul purpose is to understand what a drug addiction is and what it does to a family. Sometimes a soul purpose is to understand that I can't help my loved one out of this addiction. They have to do it for themselves. These are
Right.
various forms of soul purposes. Soul purpose could be literally surviving childhood, right? A soul purpose could be learning how to negotiate business relationships. And we were talking earlier with Gillian about before the show about how companies will try to, not all companies, but there's this one particular company that will try to kind of like take advantage of the way women think. Oh, well, I'll give them another chance. I'll do this. I'll do that. And so that's on the woman who's doing that. You got to, cut the bait, cut the bait. If the company or corporation you're working for is promoting or hiring within dubious practices, it's time to stand up. And maybe that's the karmic test. Maybe that's the soul purpose.
Right.
And
To build your power, to have a voice. Remember, we have a throat chakra for a reason.
right.
Okay. And it is maybe to learn that, there are times when we look at the different tarot cards and we look at the 8, the strength card. In some decks, it's the 11. That's the whole thing I'll get into when I'm doing a class. But it's generally a woman holding a lion's mouth closed or a beast. Okay. And most people interpret that right away of don't let your anger out. That's not what that card's saying. What that card is saying is you need strength. Sometimes you need to keep your mouth shut. But we've been given a beast and power within. If we don't want to call it a beast, call it power. We've been given, I can speak my truth. Okay. Ooh, this is, all right, bear with me. This is getting huge because it's just coming down on me really heavy. That card is there to remind us when we let the beast loose, there are times we are to stand up, demand. There are times we are stand up and declare our strength, our sovereignty about who we are, our worth even. You're not listening to me because you devalue me for whatever reason that may be, but I'm telling you, you need to listen to me. And there are times we need to let that beast loose. There are times we need to rein it in. That's the strength card, is understanding when it's time to stand up, when it's time. Is it a full on, all right, we're going to war, baby? Okay. Or is it time to just declare, sit down and shut up? Or is it time to sit back and listen and learn? That's strength. And I think that's the power of one of the things we're here to learn. That strength, what true strength really is.
A huge lesson, right? When do you yield your sword or when do you not, right?
Right.
Yeah. And there's a lot, this can be so complicated and so elegantly simple at the same time. Gillian saying, I've pictured a moment of a soul contract. Is the soul standing in front of an apothecary cabinet, choosing which drawer? You know what? Your guess is as good as mine. We're at a big round table and, I don't know. But yeah, it's, these are the elements that, as Danielle's saying, make us stronger. These are stretch goals, right, for us. And sometimes we can go from A to B to Z, and it's a stretch goal. And we all have these moments and abilities to change our patterns, our philosophies, our belief structures. We don't have to be set in stone with everything. And we've got soul missions or soul purposes, but some people have soul missions. Those people who come into this planet and they don't have to, they choose to because they love humanity so much and they want to help humanity and they have these soul missions. However, being of spiritual service can be as simple as smiling at somebody at the grocery store who looks like they're having a rough day.
Thank you. Because I've put a challenge out at one point a couple of years ago, and I never heard too many people come back from it, but to walk up to a complete stranger in a mall, okay? And I believe in the power of this, okay? And I will do this to this day. If it's a woman, if it's a guy, whatnot, I don't care. If my wife's there, she's like, oh shit, here he goes, okay? because I will walk up to a woman, whether it be an older woman, a younger woman, or whatnot, and say, excuse me, I need to let you know something. Okay. I'm married. That's my wife right over there. She knows I'm up here, but your smile is lighting up this room. It can be something, and having worked in the mental health field, in the deepest, darkest depths of it, in a trauma center, in addictions counseling or whatnot, it can be something just that simple that saves somebody's life and you don't even know it.
Yeah. It is those small measured moments. We all have the ability to do it. Not only does it help them, but it helps us. Those small measured moments of just those moments of kindness, those moments of compassion, those moments of gratitude.
Right.
When you can live a life of gratitude, and I was recently shared this, I'm gonna share this with everybody. This was shared with me during a client session. And the idea is to create an infinity loop to help with anxiety, to help recenter yourself. You're going to take your hands right here at the heart chakra, and you're going to say in an infinity loop, I am blessed. I am grateful. I am grateful. I am blessed. Now, if your hands go off centered, there's a energetic disconnect. So keep doing it over and over. I am blessed. I am grateful. I am grateful. I am blessed, because it starts to live within you and it starts to go into the heart chakra.
Right.
And I am very grateful for that information that was gifted to me and to many other people. So I want to thank them for that. So
Absolutely. And you can take that course on udemy.com. I think it's EFT tapping or something. I'm certified in it. I've used it several
yeah, the
times.
EFT is another thing we can do.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
And to create the infinity loop of those words of being blessed and full of gratitude, it starts to live within us. So it's a beautiful way to start getting ourselves centered, because let's face it, living a mortal life on this planet is not easy. It is not for the faint of heart. It is not for the weak, right?
It's not. And
Oh,
here in working with many people, one of the things I find is the world as we know it is what has thrown us off course in our mind. And when we start talking, a lot of times it comes down to, I don't know who I am. I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing, but something in their gut is telling them they're off course. Okay.
yeah.
Well, I can't just magically tell you, oh, you're supposed to be doing X. Okay. Now, what we normally find out here, and I want people to understand, okay, this is what I do believe in sacred callings, your journey, your path. Okay. You're here to do something. Now, part of our path is to find out what that is. Okay. I think we're here not to go like, okay, well, if I'm supposed to do it, why don't I remember it? Part of our growing, our evolution to higher spirit is for us to learn it of ourselves. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's to bring it into ourselves.
Yeah, because it's one of those things, and I'm not talking about I'm a middle school teacher. I'm not talking about I'm a drug counselor. That's not what I'm talking about.
Am I as a soul?
And I think that's kind of where Laura and I are heading. We're on a good way. I know it's within my heart to shake people. One of my things was the first thing, break free of all the dogma, okay, of religion, and understand, wait a minute, I don't have to live in fear. There's a powerful world. And one of those things is to be able to break that off and think for myself. But that's what the world is so good at. How many of you got a schedule you got to keep every day? Getting up in the morning, racing off to get the kids, get them off to school. And then, God forbid, some of my parents, and I just spoke about this with somebody earlier in the week, then after school, we don't even get that break anymore. It's okay. Now they got to go to soccer. Now we got to do this. Oh, I got to get dinner. Who's doing what? And by the time we get to bed, we are literally not relaxing. We're passing out.
Yes. I've lived that life. I know what that's like. My busiest times are between 2 p.m. and 7 p.m., right?
Yep.
And so when there's tension in our lives, it tells you that something is out of balance. So that tension is something is out of balance. What is out of balance in your life? And when you figure that out, what do you do to put it into balance, right?
Right.
This is a big deal.
Exactly.
What do you think about I'm gonna kind of call it there. I see a lot of this lately. The concept of spiritual bypassing.
Explain more. Because I think
That
I know what you mean, but I want to make sure before I start.
so there's a lot of people who want the cliff notes on how to be human, right? They want the cliff
Right.
notes on being spiritual, but it's hard work being spiritual. It's really hard work. And so what does that look like in a spirit? And the other part is that spirituality should never be a contest.
No, it shouldn't. Thank you. Thank you. Oh my God. Okay. Thank you. And
Yeah.
we seem like, oh, I'm a Reiki,
Yeah,
to the
right? I
30
know.
something. I'm a 30 something degree master. Okay, that means 32 generations ago,
Yeah, yeah,
they've linked to that person taught the person that taught them, that taught them, that taught them, that taught them 32 times to tell you something. So it doesn't
yeah.
it doesn't matter. Intention and belief.
That's
That is and your
absolutely
faith. That
right.
that it's understanding and knowing it. I took it. I'm a Reiki. I have my Reiki 1, my Reiki 2 practitioner. My wife, same thing. Did we go get our masters? No. Why do I need to be a master?
You
All
know,
I want to do is show people what to do. All I
well,
want
and
to do is show people how to that we can do this and help people do it. And I think it's a bunch of we've been watching some British television, so I want to use this word for the first time. I
okay.
believe it's a bunch of bollocks, okay? That that you have to go to somebody who's certified by somebody else that nobody knows, okay,
Uh-huh.
to learn this when we've been given it. Somebody gave us that information, and I think we've polluted it into this structure of who
Yeah.
taught you, what
I
class.
yeah, I can't agree more. Part of what we need to do is we have to learn, right? We need to learn
Yes,
everything about spirituality. My issue with Reiki in general is they don't teach people how to remove the darknesses they clear. So they tend to stick on the person.
right.
And then they get health problems, they have wealth problems and all of those things. So it's study everything. And as you say, Reverend Rob here, take what you want, leave what you don't. I mean, I have a huge library of books. I don't believe everything I'm reading in the books.
No.
You might
And
find
folks, what Laura's saying here, I want you to stop and think about it. You know, when you go to the doctor, okay, they've cleaned the room and themselves prior to walking in with you. When they get done treating you, maybe the only thing the doctor did was this or touch you with an instrument. When you leave, they are cleaning up, Purelling up, everything else. We
yeah,
need to be, if you're going to do Reiki, if you're going to work with other people, if you're going to do tarot, if you're going to do exorcisms, any part of it, you need to learn that exit strategy from that client is part of your routine.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
It's just that simple. No doctor wants to bring, a virus home. All right. But it's happened because of lackadaisical
yeah.
cleaning. You don't want to bring something home. And I think here's the problem with that I know more than you know mentality that you're talking about, Laura.
Yeah.
Okay. I really think that some people think they're immune to it. Oh, because I banished it. I love that laugh.
Oh,
I'm going to record that laugh and use it as a yeah.
yeah. Okay.
Oh, wrong. wrong.
And
So
it's, you have to put the ego in check,
yeah,
but truly put the ego in check, not saying, "Oh, my ego's in check," and then espouse how great you are. Um, we can't stop learning. We
mm-mm,
can't stop studying these holy texts. We can't stop studying these books. I mean, one of my favorite books, it's not in print anymore, um, but it had so much good information in it, and it's old information, but I can apply it to today. Study
right,
geometry. There's so much information within geometry. God is the first mathematician, the first scientist, right? The first artist. So study these things and then follow the path that rings true for you. If you're naturally inclined to start studying a certain philosophy or religion, go for it. There's no wrong way to do this unless you want to study certain versions of, dark texts. But be careful, right? I
right.
mean, doctors study viruses and bacteria. I'm just going to leave it at that for a reason. So we can study some of this, but you got to be careful with this stuff.
Absolutely. And Lori, I just want to make sure I'm understanding your question. Okay. The term coming online is a nowadays term. If we did that back in the 70s, we would think of a power
Mhm.
station, or something like that. And I don't think our gifts suddenly come online. You have to be searching for them. Okay.
There
You have
aren't.
to be open, or at least be open that there's something you're supposed to be doing or learning. It's not just going to be you're walking around one day smoking a cigarette, having a beer, and going, "Oh crap, I can hear voices." Well, yeah, lay off the PBR, bro.
Yeah, or you maybe there's a voice you don't want to hear. But I do believe that I'm not a fan of the word gifts because when I was struggling in those awful days where my home was literally a horror flick, I would have given those gifts back. I would have returned them, I would have burned them, I would have like whatever. Um, right? So I prefer the word ability, but that's just me. These psychic abilities, they ebb and flow and they come and go as needed, but they're also karmically earned. If you were extremely psychic in a past life and you caused somebody a lot of harm with your psychic abilities, chances are in this life you don't get those abilities back.
And
You've
that very well could be. I don't think a lot of stuff is earned. Okay. I believe it's experience. And again, I go back to my
the experience
intention
is learning it.
argument. Right.
Experience is learning.
But I also believe everyone has been given these abilities.
Yes.
Some people tune in, some people don't. Some people don't know how to tune in, and they're looking for that answer. But I do believe if we take what Laura just said about earning it, and I apply my belief of what's your intention, okay? That's going to judge how well or whatnot you do. Because if we believe there's a dark energy, a darkness, they will want somebody that wants to use that. They will come searching. Okay. So I believe it's who's learned to do what they want to do with it. And this is why we get back this never ending cycle of stop living our lives emotionally. We're supposed to be happy. We're supposed to be joyous. We're supposed to feel pain. We're supposed to feel sad. Okay. But we're not supposed to let that turn. Anger is a secondary emotion.
Yeah.
Anger doesn't just exist. It's when we allow our grief, our sadness, things that embarrassed us, a feeling of lack of respect, like we were talking about with particularly with what women go through in the workplace, different things like that. How do you deal with that on a spiritual nature rather than always turning to an
Yeah.
emotional nature? And
The
that's where I think a lot of people they've sought rewards, they get rewards. They're rewarded by dark entities for using that power.
Mhm.
But that like it says right here when we talk about soul purpose and life purpose, they pay for it in the long run.
They do. And the best thing we can do when we think our emotions are getting overridden, like they're beyond our control, take a breath. Inhale, exhale, take a moment, pause before you say a word. Ask yourself, is it worth it?
Yes.
Right? And when you do that, you start to gain wisdom, you start to gain discernment, and
Yes.
you start to connect to God, to the divine, to the higher sources.
Right.
When we do that, when we react out of emotion, we're getting this dark side payback, so to speak. I mean, it doesn't mean we
Right.
can't be happy. Oh, I like this too. Gifts are,
Yeah. I
they're
find a lot of truth in this statement,
yeah,
and it is, where do you default to? If you default to being hurt, if you default to anger, if you default to depression, okay, there's a lot of people that are chemically depressed. There are people that need medication to help them because their body is not syncing up correctly with the different adapters, things like that. However, not everybody that's on medication needs medication. All right.
right.
Because depression can be a very comfortable place, and depression precludes and clouds us being able to use those abilities. So, therefore, once you learn how to function, maybe this is where the earn statement comes in. Okay. And you've like learned, wait a minute, it's sunny out. I don't care if he's the father or not. It's time to get my ass off the sofa and
Yeah.
go outside and look at God and say, look at the world, look at the universe, look at the ground and go, thank you. I'm blessed. Now, what do I do? Okay. And that, I believe, Tootie, is exactly right. You just have to rebuild, where does your mind go first? And that's difficult. That's just like an addict with triggers. We've got a dopamine function. They've been fed. This was rewarding to them. Okay. So how do we change that? It's your mind's a muscle. You change that if
Yeah,
you want
and
to
these
help people.
psychic abilities, we can learn to grow them, but we have to understand they come with a lot of responsibility.
Yes, ma'am.
They
Yes, ma'am.
it's crucial we understand the responsibilities. If I can remote view, okay? I can remote view in the real time and in the ether. I will not start peeking in your house, right?
Right.
Because if I start doing that, then I will lose that ability because
Yes.
I am not abiding by spiritual law. That's a whole nother
Exactly.
conversation. We have spiritual law.
Oh, yeah.
And
Yeah.
so know that how to use these abilities for the greater good to be of service, true service, not service to self. So, I was talking to somebody who's all of a sudden she's learning how to manage her energy because she just vomits energy everywhere, right?
Yeah.
And she's like, I was at this, football game, or what was it? I think it was lacrosse game or something. And she was talking about how she could send energy to the other kids. I'm like, no, 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 you can't do that. Okay. You can't do that. That's a violation.
Wow.
Would you want somebody to a stranger walk up to your kid and hand him an ice cream cone? Right. So there's rules and responsibilities as far as this type of stuff.
Right. And I think here's my movie quote of the day. We all know I'm so fond of movie quotes. Okay. From Jurassic Park, they were so consumed with could they never thought about should they.
Right.
Okay. With science, with everything else. Can we do this? Because,
Yeah.
well, maybe we can, but should we? And just because we have some spiritual abilities, just like many of y'all see on my Monday night and Wednesday night show, I refuse to read somebody third party. I'm not going to tell you whether Billy Bob loves you or not. Okay. Because that's not my place to go into Billy Bob's space without Billy Bob's permission. Okay. And this is going to be, so much of what we're talking about and bringing this together
And
that,
yeah, working through
re-
these problems is a big deal.
Yes. And you know, two things real quick. Okay. No, wow, it's on an hour. This one
Wow.
might fly.
Okay. Yes.
Okay. You know, we went to a Teresa Caputo, the Long Island Medium show when she's in Orlando. Okay. And what I found out real quick, she was not there to truly help anybody. She was there to glorify herself and her power. Because during everything, see, how would I have known that? How would I have done it? And she would ask, did that validate? Is this true or whatnot?
She
The other
doesn't
thing in
help
what
the souls cross over. It drives me nuts. She's
no, and
leaving.
the
Yeah.
other aspect is, and I found this out the hard way, and when I was learning and working with people, okay, I started right away. I felt I had doing a manicure pedicure thing with Mr. Bruce. So these two huge guys, they're going, yeah, you know, here we go, you know. And I got the presence of a child, and I just started blurting things out. Next thing I know, my girl's off in the back, bawling her eyes out because she lost her child just like a year ago.
Oh wow.
Okay.
Mhm.
You know, and Bruce, and this, it was so comical. 6 foot, probably 6'4", you know, 300 pounds, with his hands in his little tray, going, dude, you got to work on your bedside manner. Because we're both sitting here now in fingernail gel, and they're all gone.
You know, I want pictures, okay?
Yeah.
But at the same time, it was a learning opportunity for you in that moment, right?
Yeah.
The biggest learning opportunities we have are sometimes what not to do.
Right.
Yeah. So anyways, I know we're over here, so I know we got to wrap this up, but thank you for this conversation. I could go on for hours on these
Oh,
topics. So
I love it.
yeah. So thank you.
So, did you have anything you wanted to end up with, or something
You know
that's
what? I am going to be speaking at Journey to Truth
okay?
conference in May in Grafton, Illinois. I think it's like right after Mother's Day weekend. They have online passes. You can go to my website and you can find it there. The bottom of the homepage. I will be speaking about soul sovereignty and mind control elements and what you can do about it.
Very good. Very
So,
good. I
and
know too, sometime soon I'll be coming up on the Off Cabot again, that theater. And if you're in the New England area, they have asked me back. They want me to come back. We're trying to get everything arranged, so I don't have a date or anything like that yet. And we got a lot of other things in the works. So be ready here.
all right. And thank everybody. I want to just thank everybody for tuning in and listening. I know your time is valuable. You could be doing so many other things. So thanks for chatting it up with us today and listening.
Absolutely. And we appreciate that you're allowing us to be a part of your evening. I mean, that's awesome. You could be doing anything else in the world. All right. But you're here with Laura and I, and we thank you so much.
Yeah.
So, with all that being said, remember, take what you want, leave what you don't, but leave having experienced some peace, love, and light. Bangarang.
Thank you.